Good morning and welcome back to the Dogs and Deadlifts podcast. So today we have all the way from Scotland, Lindsay Johnson from Cani-Fit. Good morning here. Good evening to you.
Thanks. Hi. Good evening.
Look, I thank you very much for taking the time. I know that I suppose the world's in a bit of chaos at the moment, so we have had a moment to jump on and have a chat.
We have lots of time at the moment.
It's funny. One of the cities close to me went into a 3-day lockdown just over the weekend. So they Brisbane trialled a 3-day lockdown. Lucky for me, we're out of the outside of the zone, but they're still waiting until today to announce whether they're going to go back to normal or not. But there was I think there was a number of cases. They're saying the lethal morphed UK strand has come to Australia, so they're a little bit concerned about that.
Right. Okay. So we'll see. It's been branded the South African strain that came to the UK. So we don't know who
Someone's bloody done it.
We're in a proper lockdown, so we are back into like a full lockdown is what we were in March at the start of the pandemic. So it's you were just sitting tight, and the less that we can do, the better, because hopefully if we can all sort of do that and not be together as much, and then we can do it a little bit quicker, but who knows.
Yeah, for sure. We'll cross our fingers, our legs and our toes that we're, this thing, calms down and we can go back to a little bit of normal life, probably. Yeah, at some point. But so let's jump straight into it. Enough about the coronavirus. Can you please, tell us a little bit about yourself? Obviously I do, but for the listeners there, can you give us a little bit of introduction about just yourself and also the puppies and the dogs that you've got at the moment?
Okay, yeah. So I'm Lindsay Johnson. I am the owner of Cani-Fit. Founded the company and developed it myself back in 2011. We're in our 10th year now. I've been involved in sled dog sports for perhaps around about maybe 14 or 15 years. I currently have 6 dogs. They're all sled dogs. They're a mixture of European sled dog, Scandinavian hound, and some with a little bit of Greaster mix and some with Alaskan Husky mix. They're all really nice dogs. They all live in the house, and they're all easy to adapt to each of the sport, as well as be as normal a dog as these type of breeds that are. I can't take them for a walk around the street, for example, because they would pull my arm out my socket, and I can't let them off the lead near roads because they're very rangy. But other than that, they're a lot of fun. Great dogs. Good to have around.
At the moment, do you have obviously range of age? Just for our listeners, what's the youngest, what's the oldest at the moment?
Stormy, my puppy, I got her from Norway. She will be coming up for 2 in March. She's my youngest, and my oldest is Izzy. And it's funny to say Izzy being my oldest, because Izzy has been my race dog. That she's been my teammate for years, and she'll be coming up for 10 in a couple of months. So we lost a couple of oldies, not last year but the year before. We lost Izzy's mum, and then a couple of years before that Izzy's dad, and we lost Mac, who was an uncle. So the much older ones have passed on, and now Izzy, who I always deem as the youngest and the race dog, is now the oldest of the pack. She's nearly 10 years old. We have her 2 children, her 2 puppies, Bolt and Mo, and they are 6 coming on 7 this summer. And then there is Hank and Loco, who are direct nephews to Izzy, and they are 5 coming up for 6 at the end of the summer as well.
Exciting. There's lots of a good variety there. Fantastic. So let's jump straight in and talk shit about Cani, if that's okay. Super excited. Canicross you know, how did you get into the sport? And you know, I suppose 10 years ago, 2011, you know, that's a fair while ago, and most, you know, let me
So I
yeah.
got into the sport before. I had a friend who kept her horse at the same yard where I kept my horse,
Yeah.
and she had came up with this this bundle of absolute, you know, beauty, and it was an Alaskan Malamute puppy, and I
Yeah.
had never heard of this breed. I had never seen one before. I didn't know anyone that had them. They were pretty unknown,
Mm.
and all of this is all before the days of Facebook.
Mhm.
You know, and and I just fell in love with this dog. And when the more I learned about the breed, the more I was like, this is the breed for me. I had a horse, and I loved having an animal that required work. And I
Mhm.
loved having an animal that I could, the thought of having an animal that I could work with and do a sport with.
Yeah.
So this Alaskan Malamute became an obsession, and my friend then had several of them. So I would go and train them with her, and I would, you know, really get involved, and I would do a lot of work, and put them on the rig, and would do, you know, typical kind of freight training, and go to some races and events, and I got really heavily involved in the sport. And then when the time was right, I got my own. I got my puppy, so that was Suko, who's the logo of Cani-Fit,
Mhm.
and who, if anyone follows me, you'll see a lot of Suko memories popping up. My Alaskan Malamute, and he just changed my whole world. He changed my whole life. He taught me everything, you know, that everything that I needed to know to guide me on that sort of journey of fitness and teaching others. And he did a lot of teaching as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I had got into sort of sled dog sports first of all, and then, you know, had Suko and thought, and it wasn't until Suko was maybe about 3 years old, I decided that I would Canicross with him. And I tried really hard to find a running group or a walking group that would allow me to join with my dog. And I literally, when I say I tried hard, and if anyone knows me, you know, trying hard means trying hard. I'm pretty determined. So I was, you know, on the phone and emailing and constantly just pestering people, asking, can I join? My dog's on a lead. He's used to running. It won't interfere, etc., etc. And everybody said no.
Mhm.
Nobody was interested. And I found that I was going to the gym, keeping myself fit, going out for a run, and then trying to train my dog. And I'm like, this just is not going to work. You know, it needs to be combined together. So there was nobody out there to teach a Canicross. So
Mhm.
with a bit of an internet search, you know, I googled and I found a man called Colin Reid, who years later actually bought a puppy off me. He had an article in a newspaper that he had travelled abroad with his border terrier Mitch, and he'd ran in Canicross with his border terrier, and his local vet had sponsored him, and they put an advert in a newspaper, and it came up on a Google search. So I stalked down Colin Reid and got in contact with him, and he was very generous. He gave up his time and agreed, you know, to meet me, and he introduced me to other people, and we all met up at Pollock Park one early Sunday morning, and we went out, you know, doing what we thought was a bit of Canicross, and from there things just exploded in Scotland. It really was literally just that one sort of bit of connection, getting people together, and then it was just like, you know, it was like this meeting of of tribes that were meant to meet. It was like a calling, and really just sparked off, and we all went off in different directions, and, you know, grew different things, and great things came from it.
Mhm.
And not necessarily all together, but from that one meeting, which is pretty special, I think. And yeah, and from there it just grew, and my passion for it get stronger and stronger, that you know, that I was spending all my free time training and teaching other people and collecting kit and encouraging people to come to groups, that, you know, I wasn't really happy in my job, and I just, you know, I was out on a run with a friend and said, I want to start like a gym where I teach people how to get fit with their dog. I
Mhm.
want to kill two birds with the one stone, and I don't want people to have the struggles that I did. I want people to be able to learn how to train the dog, learn how to do it properly, and learn how to get fit at the same time. And, you know, and it's true what they say, if you just sort of kind of manifest something and you talk about it, and it grows, and it literally did
Mhm.
from that chat. And it didn't just happen like that. It's taken me a long time
Mhm.
to get to where we are now with Cani-Fit, and it's been a lot of mistakes and a lot of redirection, but that's
Mhm.
basically how it started.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And that was, I was going to lead into the next question about how, obviously then the business came about and things like that. So,
Yeah.
you've answered that particular question as well. So that's fantastic. And obviously that's led to, was it last year that you released the book as well?
No, it wasn't last year.
19? No, yeah,
Yeah, 2019.
yes,
So yeah, I had the Cani-Fit guide to Canicross. So that came about with big support from a really good friend, Nicola
yep,
Cameron, who really helped put that together. So I was doing a lot of writing blogs and writing a lot of information,
yep,
because there really isn't a lot of education out there, and there's obviously a lot more now. But at the time there wasn't, so I was writing a lot of info. I was doing a lot of editorial pieces. I was always getting asked to do blogs for other companies or for newspapers and so on. So I had a lot of content. And then when I started developing online coaching, I was writing even more content on how to train different aspects. And then with my developing my leader course, again, writing huge amount of content for the book that we give to the leaders. And it was my friend Nicola, who is really academic, and she's a writer herself, and she says, you really need to bring out a book. You have got all this information there. And I just didn't really think that I did, but when it came to editing the book, we literally had to take a percentage of what I had, because we too much information in it,
yeah, yeah.
and I was like, oh wow, there is a lot here, and eventually cut it down to something that was more manageable. So the idea behind it really was just to be, a straightforward guide. So if somebody's new to the sport, in whatever country they're in, that they get a deeper understanding of what the sport is, and not just a how-to. And I had one negative complaint from somebody on Amazon, and I thought, you bitch, but she's gave me good content to talk about, and she complained that there wasn't a training, like a training schedule in there for her. And I thought, but maybe people want to see that, but I would be lying. I wouldn't be myself. I wouldn't be authentic if I said, go out and do this,
Yep.
and this is going to make you a better canicrosser. And that wasn't my aim for the book. My aim was I wanted people to delve deeper and understand how the big picture and the big wheel is what supports you and your dog's journey through the sport. And it's not just about how you fit a harness, how fast you run, and how often you run to get faster times. It's about developing a partnership and developing a workforce with your dog, and being able to sustain it for a long time, not on the trail, but a long time through their life, and making it as positive and rewarding experience for both. And I think if you understand all what may seem to some the boring fundamentals, and then if you really understand why I've put that information there, and you can piece that together, and you really are going to do better, with your times, because without that, you can only do so much.
For sure. Look, and I obviously, I do have a copy, and I've seen you're going to send some copies over to New Zealand or something like that recently as well. They were trying to get
Yes.
their hands on some copies, or a few people.
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah,
Lucy.
yeah, yeah, and and you're right. Even to the point that the first thing that sticks out to me that I read, and so my previous dog, who I've no longer with us, was deaf, and so Sunday was deaf, and one of the main points there is work. You say about work with what you got. Don't rush out and necessarily get a new dog. Have fun
Yes.
and work. Work the relationship that you have with your dog. That's one of the key points that obviously
Yes.
I took away, because I'm like, oh, is my dog's deaf? How do I do this? Those questions popped up. But I had trained her for years, but that's sort of a couple of, or one of the main things that obviously stuck out to me that you wrote in the book as well. So you're right, it's about having fun, having a great time,
Yep.
and building on the foundations.
Yeah, and always coming back to, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing it?
Yep.
Because why are you and the dog together doing it, and not just what's your time goal? And we all get hung up on that. We all get hung up on aiming for a race and aiming for a time, and sometimes some of the important things get lost in that. And I think that lockdown has been an amazing thing for that, being able to bring a bit of realisation back to people again, that why they do what they do. There's no events, there's no races, and sometimes it's good just to remember, what am I in this sport for? And it is truly for the love of running with my dog and seeking adventure. And I sort of took away all the stuff that I felt I had to do lots of, but I didn't actually enjoy, and did more of the things that I enjoyed during lockdown. And that's really been a good sort of break from the hard chasing races and PBs.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to, just say, obviously, the book came about. It's going around the world now, which is awesome. With lockdown, I suppose it's been a little bit of a transition. And I know you've been training people online now as well. So how's that been going?
Yeah, that's been really good. The online coaching is getting busier and busier.
Yep.
People are really enjoying that. I've got people coming on for the first time who have perhaps Canicross before, or they're just new to Canicross, but they really need to sort of go back to the basics and install some structure into their training. And then some people just sort of coming on for health and fitness, and sort of kind of personal training type coaching, but adding a little bit of Canicross in with it. And I think, it's going great. We've got the online classes as well. So we had an idea before lockdown that we were going to build an academy. I had this idea I was going to build a training academy online, and I just kept stalling with it. I had the idea for a few years, and we'd been out doing a lot of filming, putting things together, but didn't do anything with it. And then we heard about the lockdown, and we were like, shit, right, what are we going to do? We can't run classes. So myself and Finn, who works with me, we literally took that content that we'd videoed. I sat and wrote training plans for hours on end for the first couple of weeks of lockdown, and we developed into structure classes and used the content of the filming that we had. And then obviously as restrictions eased, we were able to film some more things. So it was great that it made us, we had to pivot. We had no choice but to pivot. And I wanted to keep people going. I want to keep people interested and motivated. I don't want people to give up on it and feel that they can only do the sport with a group. I want people to feel independent in their own Canicross journey. I don't feel that they're so reliant on a group or a class or a race. I want them to get what I got out of it, right at the start with Suko, or what I got out with One and One Dog. I want people to get that. So the online classes have been harder because it's a lot of people who've done the classes, signed up for the online classes, and they do miss the buzz in the group and their dog following someone. And it does require them to be a lot more self-disciplined and self-motivated and go out. And I did a live Q&A chat yesterday with the group, and I said, I just want you just to dedicate just 1 hour a week and just do one class. And if your dog isn't running amazing like they used to, but so long as they're happy and they're running out in front, and then just do it and just commit for 4 weeks and see how you get on. And people are picking it up again, which is great. I think sometimes with the coaching, people feel because they've got a full package there, or they've paid more money, that they go out and do it. But the online classes are amazing. Like, it's real great content that's there, and it gives great variety. So I'm hoping that spreads out to other countries, and people can get a feel for what we do over here in the UK.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just, we'll dial it back so maybe someone that's listening to, my podcast, they've come across Dogs and Deadlifts for the very first time. They go, I'm thinking about Canicross. As you mentioned, there's not a huge amount of content out there. There's, starting to be some written, but, they're thinking, all right, I want to give this Canicross a go, right? So obviously, you've got some online classes and online coaching, but what would you say, where do they start? What's it, how many people do you see, rush out and buy a kit or the, potentially items that are, maybe, the finances could have been directed better, in your opinion, what would be the good start?
A good start. So ideally, I would say before they rush out and buy kit, is to just sit down, just watch some YouTube videos, look at some pictures and first of all get an idea of their dog. So if they've got, for talking sake, say a Labrador or a Vizsla or a Terrier, try and look for dogs that are similar to their dog's size, their dog's breed, and what sort of, like kit that they're wearing, but also get to know how your dog runs. So if you think your dog is going to gallop, or if you think they're going to likely to just trot out in front, or do you think they're going to weave, they're going to have less focus, gather all that information. And if you've got as much information as possible, and then speak to a retailer, say, this is the stuff I've been looking at, I quite like the look of this, but this is how I think my dog is likely to run. What's going to be the best way to get kit? And I think do a wee bit of research first before you go out and get the kit. If you're able to join a group or a class in your local area, then go for it, do that and borrow stuff. That's definitely the best way before buying kit. But I think things like understanding, having a respect and an understanding of the background of the sport, and appreciating that it isn't just running with your dog with expensive fancy kit. It's not Canicross style, which I hear a lot of Americans now saying. They say, I went out Canicross style, and really all they're doing is road running their dog with a harness on, and that's not what Canicross is. And for people like me, would be seething like it's boiling our blood. It's like, no, it's a sport in its own right, and you need to respect that, and you have to understand why the crazy women in Scotland will be seething. You have to understand, why is that annoying her? And it's annoying me because there's things that you've got to do to make it positive and to make it safe for your dog. You shouldn't be encouraging your dog, to be pulling in a sled dog type harness to go out and run them on tarmac for 7 miles. And you also shouldn't be training or running them like you would if you're training for your half marathon, because it's not the same. And Canicross is not just running with your dog with kit on. It's very different. And I think if you can get an understanding and a respect for that, and then you'll open your mind up as to why things are done a certain way.
Yeah, awesome. And there's many heated I suppose debates, and people trying to educate others around that, so I see on good old social media, and hence why we're here today, and we're having a good chat about trying to help people get a little bit more educated. And I suppose the other thing is, obviously you mentioned about trying to just have a look at the harnesses and get something that's going to be suited to you. I think I see maybe at least 50 posts a day on the groups that I'm in about does this harness fit, is this too big, is this too small, so you see that quite a lot. So if you spend the time and like I said, do a bit of research on and then speak to your retailers. And not in these times, not everyone can have a face-to-face fitting, so
I think what I would like to add to that is that you're right. There's constant posts on groups asking about harness fit, and now as much as harness fit is important, if a dog's, you've got to appreciate as well that people are now canicrossing with dogs of all shapes and sizes and all wonderful mixed breeds, and they're buying an off the peg harness and expecting a fit like a custom fit, which we're seeing a lot of like staffy or bull type cross dogs that are not designed for sled dog sports, and sled dog harnesses are not designed around this shape of dog, and often the harnesses just don't fit the dog right unless it's custom made. And everyone has got a bit of an opinion on it, but it's going to be really difficult to get a custom fit, a perfect fit harness on a dog that isn't a supermodel sled dog type body, because these harnesses are not designed. That's what they're designed for, are dogs that are long backed, that are lean and tall, that are hound shape or husky shaped. When you've got these all different shapes, then it can be more difficult to fit. However, you'll get your Susans and Helens and Tims and people that are getting pedantic over the fit of a harness. but very few of them are actually worried about the surface type that they're running their dogs on,
Yep.
or the distance that they're running their dog, or the actual routine, the warm-up.
Yep.
Are their dogs hydrated? Are they fed too close to the run? Are they giving them adequate breaks that they need mentally within the run? Are they making it exciting? Are they clear enough in their training commands? Make sure that they're not confusing their dog? Are they making sure it's a positive experience when they're putting their legs in and out of their harness, that they're not pulling, their leg, their joint away from the body? That there's very few people asking about that or concerned about that, and there's more people that will go on and on and on about a harness. And sometimes I want to say, Helen, that harness is a tiny bit big, but do you know what? Just go out and get your training nailed. Sport, there's bigger things to worry about than if this harness can be could be adjusted ever so slightly. I think if these people looked outside that box and spent more time focusing on other things and putting it all together, rather than, they always want to blame the retailer. Oh, that was the one that was advised, or that's what the measurements fit, and it's like, come on. You've got this dog that's got 5 breeds in it that was never any heritage of a sled dog. You're doing a sled dog sport and you've bought an off the peg harness. What do you expect?
Look, I 100% agree, and what you just mentioned, I'm going to go off slightly off the side a little bit, but I had a gentleman contact me a couple of days ago, wanting a conditioning program for his dog, and I'm not sure if you've seen him, but there's a company in the US that does weighted vests, and this gentleman has this weighted vest, and I think he said he was putting 6 to 8 kilos on this 40 kilo pointer and doing hill sprints. Yeah, that's right. So I was like, holy smokes, mate! What sort of base have you done? What sort of warm up have you done? Like, there's so many other I know, right? I know. But he just didn't know, right? So I was happy to help him, but he just didn't know, because the particular vest was, marketed as a, put weight in, high intensity type vest. That's the stuff that's out there, the issue obviously they have there is exactly the same as, Helen running on the road, ligaments, joints, tendons, are they up to it? Are we doing a sufficient warm up? There's so many other contributing factors to it, but if you don't know, you don't know, right? So yeah, so spend the time, listen to some podcasts, have a get online. But I suppose you've probably noticed this as well over the years, the evolution of Facebook and Facebook groups and social media about doing this, doing that, it can be confusing can't it?
Be very toxic. So I think if you're to ask what the advice starting out is, don't bloody go on certain Facebook groups, because it would put somebody off straight away, because they end up just being a war of people wanting to promote their friend's company or put down another company. And it's just, I think you need to go out and do independent research out with the social media and just look to see what comes up on a Google search. And that is why, I'm like blatantly promoting my book, but that is why I wrote guides, because the guides there isn't just how you become a fast canicrosser. It's that whole package that I feel that's what newcomers need. That's all in a book. That's all the things that you need to know, but you need to read it and you need to appreciate it, not just buy the book.
For sure. No, that's exactly right. And look, no dramas at all. We don't mind a bit of, self-promotion on the odd occasion, all good. And like I said, well, I owned your book, so I definitely understand and have read it a number of times and used it for reference points, so all good. So I suppose, let's, have a quick chat about, I suppose the evolution of Cani, I seen you on the bike a little bit now, so let's, let's talk about, I suppose, first of all, where it was. Like you said, you work your ass off over 10 years to get, to where it is today. And like you said, people that do your head in and make you seething, saying it's only running with a dog. I think there was a comment just like the other day, you had a couple of things to say about to that, but it's more than that. We know it's more than that, and we want people to understand that it's more than that. And you do this for a living, so I suppose let's have a chat about where it was, where it is today, and obviously lockdown, but where it's
or the business.
yeah, so I suppose let's talk about the sport, and more so the sport, if that's okay. Where it was.
So the sport is, is growing huge in the UK. I mean, it's always been, ticking away nicely. Certainly a lot busier in England than what it was in Scotland. But Scotland, is really booming with the sport. I really think there is almost no town uncovered that's not got sort of Canicross group club or class going on now in the whole of the UK. I would say on the whole, Canicross on its own is really flourishing. It's really welcoming a lot of new people to the sport. There are lots of other, it's going off in lots of other sort of umbrella directions, if you like. There's like people setting up other types of companies, virtual events and, other sort of kind of dog fitness type companies that add in other dog training aspects. And down south more so than in Scotland, so in England have a lot of great, more the sort of real south of England have a lot of great trail running companies that welcome Canicrossers to join them, which is really fantastic and very inclusive. And there is a lot of Canicross events. Scotland doesn't have a lot of Canicross events. It could have more. I had myself running a lot of events in another company, Canicross Scotland, who put on a lot of events. But other than myself and Karen, who does Canisport Scotland, there isn't anyone really doing regular Canicross events. There has been the odd sort of club run, but there could be doing with a company. It's certainly got the volume of people that would take part. Sled dog sports in the UK is definitely going downhill. At one point, if you're talking 10 years ago, sled dog sports in Scotland was huge, was really big. They were really top of the game. And they were doing well, and it was getting bigger and bigger, and it was getting bigger down south with open teams, not just registered teams, but what they call the monosports, your Canicross and bike and scooter classes, slowly but surely have taken over, but the sled dog federations just haven't been able to come together, and it's been nothing but a shit show. I'll have to say it's been really disappointing. I don't know what's wrong there, but we don't seem to, our country doesn't seem to be able to, it's a wee bit like our government, we don't seem to be able to run our country properly, and it's the same with the Sled Dog Federation, that no matter who's in charge, who doesn't seem to be able to run the federation well. But the sport itself, Canicross, is fantastic. It's huge, and like I said, very welcoming and really flourishing in all sort of directions. And we're seeing real top athletes. We've got world class athletes, and not just a few. We've got a lot of real good top quality athletes who take part in world and European championships, and some who don't as well, which is nice. That that we've got really great athletes all over the UK, but we've got a whole mix of of runners that it isn't just elite. We've got a good few children and people who wouldn't run the length of themselves if it wasn't for their dog or their sport. So I can't say anything negative about the sport in the UK. It really is doing great, and it's a great place to be in.
Yeah, and we were, just before we start, I hit the good old record button. We were discussing, a bit of ratio male to females and stuff like that, and you're mentioning that even in the UK, the female presence is quite a bit larger than, the male presence at the moment.
Yes, and I would say that's the same all over Europe. If you go to the sort of European or the World Championships, the female classes are a lot more dominant. But also, which is amazing, they're not just dominant in numbers. Some of the female classes, and in the UK as well, their times are dominant over the men. average. The female athletes are, you know, in the bike and in scooter and in Canicross, you know, are real, like, are fierce, are real, you know, are doing fantastic. So that's, and I think the woman who won the Bike Jaw World Championships, correct me if I'm wrong, she was either Swedish or Norwegian. I think she's Norwegian, and she beat the men's time in the World Championships for Bike Jaw, and that's unheard of, and that's, you know, that's like, that's amazing, because the men in Bike Jaw are phenomenal athletes as well. So yeah, so we see about 70% entries are female, and then it's about a high 20% is male. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to stay the way that it is. I don't think that will change much. I don't think it's a bad or a good thing. It just it is what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and any participation, active, fit, you know, getting out there with your dog is all good, you know, but it was just something that obviously, me being male, and we were having a, you know, a bit of a chat about that earlier. So just as just an interesting statistic that, you know, I thought I'd, you know, throw it out there. What advice would you give for someone that says, look, my dog's fit and active, but I'm not a runner? You know, I hear that one, right? Often. And, you know, I'm interested in a scooter or a bike or something like that, you know. However, you know, let's, you know, what advice would you give if someone said that to you?
So we get that quite a lot. I'm not a runner, but I'm really interested. So my first question would be, is your dog harness trained, and have you trained them? And if they say no, and then I would say, well, then my advice would be is to kind of hike them, is just to hike them in harness and get the connection between you and the dog, taking the third party, being the wheel, the scooter or the bike, away, and make sure your dog is trained in direction commands, that they know how to stop by a vocal command, and they know how to ignore things, you know, and they're comfortable pulling in a harness, and they're comfortable working out in front. Because if a dog doesn't know that, and somebody then puts a bike in between you and the dog, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for the dog to be scared, to get confused, lines to get tangled, and, you know, next, you know, you're off the bike's hit the dog, your dog's got the biggest fright, and they won't run in front of a bike ever again. So there's a lot of conditioning that you need to do before introducing a dog to wheels, and that's why we don't do like beginner bike jaw type thing, because we all want people to be established in either Canicross or Cani-Hiking first. And any musher would do that. You know, they would just put their dogs as puppies on a belt and walk them, and let them get used to pulling in harness before attaching them, you know, in front of any wheels.
Yeah, no, awesome. So I was going to say is, if you had, you know, I think we talked about kit just briefly, and we, you know, I do want to ask you, actually, that just popped into my head. I see that you're running with the iDog belt. Yeah. What's your opinion on that one?
I really liked it. I have to say my favourite belt is the Kissy. It's a UK brand. It's really overlooked. People seem to think it's a beginner belt, and it's the belt that it just suits me. But the iDog belt, I've really enjoyed using it. The first few weeks I didn't enjoy it. It was quite rigid. The straps were stiff. But I was aware that this was just like a breaking in problem, that I had to like let it mold. And once it did mold, and you have to have it very tight. It's great. There's no pressure on the back whatsoever. So I think, you know, if you have back problems, and then it's fantastic. The only downside that I would say is that I don't think any of these big brands have taken into consideration a woman's shape with Canicross. I feel like a lot of them are based on men's shape. So I feel if you are, I mean, if you've got muscular legs, you know, glutes or thighs, it's hard to get a Canicross belt not to ride up, or to, you know, or to crush the hip bone or crush your hips in. So that's the one thing I would say. But I really like it. It would be my second favourite belt. My Kitsy belt is my favourite, and the iDog would be my second choice.
It's interesting. Like, we obviously here in Australia, we're a little bit light on, you know, we've got, you know, we've got, you know, non-stop, zero DC, man mat, you know. Hey, buddy, how are you going?
Let's say hi.
Hey, how are you?
You take the phone, you can go out. There you go, bribery. This is how you get your kids to be quiet.
All good.
There you go.
No, all good. You know, we're a little bit, you know, I suppose we don't have the choice that you guys have, of course, you know, so even I did.
Mr. Lamont, Auntie Lamont will send you some stuff over from France. I think you'd love to.
I've touched,
and who designed the belt is fantastic. I absolutely, I love Anthony. I love the way that he trains. And the way that he is with his dogs, and I just know that he, the type of person he is, he'll put his heart and soul into these designs, and it is very good. That anything that's French made is always superior quality. You know, it's and there's just the finishings on the belt are fantastic with the zip and whatnot. But my advice to anybody that gets it would be give it a good few weeks. It just needs time to soften into your shape, and when it does, then you will love it. And that's another reason why I would say don't share kit.
Yep.
Because you want it to mold to your shape.
Yeah, no, awesome. So, you know, I suppose, you know, I won't hold you up much longer, but if you had, you know, to give someone 3 top tips, you know, to get, you know, to get on their Canicross journey, you know, or even they've been playing around for a little while, but just haven't quite got it yet. What would you give it? Right.
Okay. My top 3 tips. My first tip would be is to do independent research and not on the Facebook groups, is to look on Google and to see what sort of quality content is out there. Make sure that whoever is writing it has experience, has hands-on experience, you know, and have a look at your podcasts and videos and books and blogs, that sort of thing. My second bit of advice would be to make sure that you get your trail environment and your trail surface correct for your dog. So it's got to be a stimulating environment and not just the local park. It's an open space, you know, on a wide open track. Go somewhere a little bit off track, somewhere a little bit more exciting, maybe somewhere a little bit more remote. You know, make it more exclusive for your dog. So it is more exhilarating. And my third bit of advice would be just do it. Just do it. Stop thinking about it, or how we say in Scotland, just do it.
Fantastic. So if someone wanted to reach out, potentially get a copy of your book, you know, where would they find you?
So if you want the book in Australia, am I right in saying you got it on Amazon?
Yes.
Yes, so I can't obviously ship to Australia, but you can get the book on Amazon. Anybody in the UK can get the book off of the website. If you find us on Cani-Fit.com, we're on Facebook is under Cani-Fit, and Instagram. I would love more Instagram followers. So it's Cani-Fit1 on Instagram. You know, you can be bored with my stories. And all the posts, and if you want to chat to me and ask me any advice, you're best getting me on Instagram if you want to chat to me rather than the Facebook page, that or the business page, and then I'm more than happy to chat about Canicross.
Fantastic, awesome. So I'll be definitely tagging you once I post up. I'll tag you on Insta once I post this podcast. But Lindsay, thank you very much for taking the time and joining us here. And hopefully this has given